This is With the First Pick, the CBS Sports NFL Draft Podcast. This is episode 66, Rick. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's Rick Spielman. He's smiling, but no pearly whites today, Rick. We're doing this a little earlier because of he's going on several vacations, so we're having to plan around him. So as Rick told me last night, Debo, he's a little more ornery the earlier in the morning. But you've been up for like 5 hours, right?
Yeah, no, I already got up, walked the dog, did my workout, and showered up and ready to roll.
Got your With the First Pick podcast T-shirt on or golf shirt on.
When's the last time you wore your team colors?
You're right. I actually thought about that when you had it on. I'll wear it on the 12-hour drive I'm about to make, so everyone on the Eastern Seaboard will know who I'm repping, as the kids say. All right, today on the show, Rick, we're going to continue the First Pick Summer Scouting School series, and we're going to look at the old running backs and tight ends. Back in April, we saw running backs go number 8 and number 12 overall, like it was 1997, and the first tight end didn't go off the board to the end of the first round. Dalton Kincaid to the Bills there, if you remember. Some 9 months from now, we could see something different, Rick. A tight end could go top half of the first round. Could he go top 10, Rick?
No, at 1990, was that a Prince song? I know, just because being from up in Minnesota for a long.
I just made up that random year back when running backs were really popular. So I have to go back and look. Thanks for calling me on that. But to answer my other question, could we see a tight end go top 10 next year?
Yeah. Huh?
Oh, all right. There you go.
All right.
And the running backs, they could last well into the second round. By the way, fun fact, I looked it up quickly. 2014 was the last year, if my math is correct, and there's a good chance it's not, that we saw a running back go this late, and that was 54th pick, which was a second-round pick. Bishop Sankey. Remember that?
Oh, from Washington.
Yeah. So that was a bad running backs year on paper. Jeremy Hill won that draft, Carlos Hyde. But all three of those players went in the second round relatively close to each other. But the fact that they went so late, maybe we see that this time around with this draft class of running backs. Some good players, certainly no Bijans or Jamirs, but we'll talk about that for sure. And by the way, if you missed it on the last podcast, Rick and I continued our summer scouting school series with the wide receivers. That conversation, of course, starts with Marvin Harrison Jr., but this will be another D class, and you can check that out in the podcast feed. And as long as you're there, you might as well check out the podcast before that podcast where we started with the quarterbacks. And again, Caleb Williams, Drake May, my guy Riley Leonard, Joe Milton, Michael Penix Jr. There are a ton of guys that are going to be on the watch list, if you will, and you should listen to that pod or watch that pod as long as you're snooping around the old podcast feed. And let's see. Oh, yeah. We're going to continue the summer scouting series every week until the college and NFL football season starts. So next week, we'll be wrapping up the offense with the old offensive line, and there are going to be 2 dudes at least that have an opportunity to be top 10 picks. So check that out. And if you're watching on YouTube, where you can always find us at NFL on CBS, take a half second to hit the old thumbs up button. Really helps promote the pod to folks who may not know about us. It's a slow part of the draft calendar, but things are going to pick up in a hurry the next few weeks. And to help us to continue to grow and to keep a roof over Rick's head, all 10,000 square feet, you can do your part by just hitting the old thumbs up button or subscribe to the podcast, leave us a 5-star review, all that stuff.
I got to tell you, it's a big day today.
Are you getting the roof?
Oh, no, we're getting garage doors that we ordered in January. So
wow.
We'll show up at 7:30 this morning. So I don't think you'll hear any noise, but I was not going to cancel the garage doors. I've been waiting.
Oh, no. If you had to do the podcast from the garage while you oversaw the installation, I would not have been angry with you.
I would have done it.
So you're getting, if I recall correctly, you're getting 8 garage doors for your 8-car garage?
Just 2 very small doghouse garage doors.
Doghouse garage doors, Snoopy doors, as we like to call them. All right. So thank you for everyone for helping us out with all that other stuff. Thanks for listening and watching, of course. And let's get to it, Rick. So we're going to talk a little tight ends and running backs. Let's start with the running backs here. I have my list. You have your list. And then Debo aggregated the list for us. I know that sometimes can get you. So we'll figure this out together. We both agree on number 1, Trevion Henderson, Ohio State. And I think we should start here because I know that the comps can be contentious. When I give you my comps, it can put you off. We tend to agree on the scouting reports. So let's start with the scouting reports, and they'll ease our way into the end of the conversation. And hopefully you'll have a few sips of coffee. Before we go on, by the way, are you still just drinking regular drip coffee, or have you at least tried out the Americanos?
No, it's whatever comes out of the machine or whatever the house, whatever in the house. I put a little K cup in there, push the button, and I've gotten much better at making sure the cup is aligned underneath, because there's been numerous times that I get yelled at for not having a cup, and then it goes all over the kitchen counter, aligned properly in the, what's it called? A cure machine?
Keurig, a cure machine. You know what? That's my fault. When we were at the draft in Stamford, Connecticut, and I exposed you to the wonderful world of hipster coffee, I thought I didn't realize you couldn't align the cup properly in the Keurig machine. So I was trying to teach you to do calculus when you weren't even adding and subtracting yet. So that's my fault. Have you even ordered a coffee?
Yeah, but I am very excited next off season when we travel together again to go back into the realm of very rich, expensive coffees.
Expensive.
Or my favorite coffee though I like is not Debo, I can't do that. We don't have an advertiser. They're not sponsoring the show, or I would.
You can do it. It's okay.
I love Pete's Coffee. Pete's Coffee, okay. Tart roasted coffee is my
all right
coffee.
See, we can get a sponsor from Pete's Coffee Depot. Meanwhile, I was thinking about the place we went to in Lexington, Kentucky. That was one of my favorite. I actually was thinking about that place at the Kenwood Table. If you're in Lexington, check that place out. Rick loved the coffee there. Didn't get out of the car. I had to do that in the rain, but that's another story. All right, let's talk about these running backs, Rick. Trevion Henderson, and let me pull up his numbers real quick so we're all on the same page. His 5'10", 214, his unofficial measurables before the season, thought to be 4.48 guy. We'll see how that works out. And I'll tell you quickly what I thought, and then you can tell me quickly what you thought, because that seems to be a point in which we can all come together. Thought he's low center of gravity runner, doesn't run too upright. He is smaller, so that helps. A little burst through the hole. Didn't create a lot of it on his own in the backfield. Doesn't add much as a wide receiver. I don't know, and I'll ask you this, and then you can go from there, because you can read a scouting report as easy as I can. When you see something like he doesn't add a lot as a receiver, how do you find out if he can be a receiver? Because that was one of the knocks on Kenneth Walker III coming out of Wake and then Michigan State, is that he wasn't asked to do a lot. That doesn't mean he can't do it, but how do you figure that out if you're trying to, if you're considered drafting a player like this?
Yeah, and an example last year was McBride, who maybe only had a couple catches. That was the one who popped out into my head. But that's why you go down and do these pro days. That's why you see them catch the ball at the combine. You see how natural their hands are. You can't eliminate them as receivers out of the backfield because they don't have many attempts their way. But those are one of the mysteries that you try to solve through the pre-draft process.
And private, I know I've asked you this before, but refresh my memory because I'm old. I can't remember things. Private workouts, can you have them just catch 50 balls if you want, or is that dependent on what he and the agent want to do?
Yeah. Now, usually I talk to the agent, but for the most part, things that you maybe didn't see at the combine or things that you want to make sure you have an answer to, you'll address those at a private workout. Or even at his pro day, and we saw that at Ohio State, right? We had the offensive lineman go.
Oh, yeah, that got you going.
The other one started, but the offensive line coaches continued with those drills down in the end zone while the other positions were going.
And as you noted, and I can't believe you didn't note here, Paris Johnson Jr. changed your mind, and in the good way, and DeJuan Jones changed your mind in not a great way because of their participation in the pro days.
Yes, it did.
All right, so tell me a little more about Trevion Henderson, things that you like, things that maybe don't stack up as we sit here to Bijan or Jameer, the first-round picks last year.
Yeah, 21, he was, there was no question that everybody thought this guy was going to be a first-round pick. Last year, I think he was banged up. He had a foot injury, but he is a quick runner, excellent vision, runs with a low pad level and center of gravity, can make quick cuts in the hole. He's patient at the second level. I don't know if he has the home run speed. That's the thing that I had a concern with, although he had a 41-yard touchdown run versus Penn State, but he's kind of a singles and doubles hitter.
Yep.
But very, very patient and very productive runner. He only had 6 targets, I believe, in 22, but his hands on those 6 targets seemed to be good enough. That's something you'd want to find out. He has to stay healthy and see if we can get him back to and show us what he showed back in 21.
Yeah, and he had 28 catches his freshman year, which is also noteworthy because is this an old scouting adage or just something I like to tell myself? If he can do it once, he can do it again?
Yeah, no. If you can catch, you can catch. If you can't, you can't.
Right. So we've seen him do it his freshman year. As you mentioned, he may have been banged up last year. I don't even pay a lot of attention at this point in the summer scouting process to the blocking of these running backs.
I do.
Yeah, but that's because you're you and I'm me. I just want to see if they're good running backs, and then we go from there. But that said, Henderson didn't show a lot as a blocker.
No, he's willing enough, but
Right.
he's just all over the place. He's like a fish out of water, just flopping around. He needs a lot of technique work and pass protection. But you got to understand, a lot of these running backs in college are probably not going to be taught much
Right.
pass protection. They only have X amount of time at practice, X amount of hours that they're supposed to be on the field through the whole year. So they probably will not get the same technical coaching, especially in pass protection, as they probably will when they get to the NFL.
And the same holds for these sort of big name superstar players in college. They're not playing on special teams for the most part either.
No. Right. But most of these guys, Rashawn Johnson was an exception to the rule on special teams, running backs playing special teams
and blocking.
But that is something that if you're going to be a backup or if you're going to be a rookie, hopefully you're good enough and you have to learn how to contribute on special teams, especially if you want to be active on game day.
Yep, I'm with you. One other thing I'll note, I don't want to linger too long on this because we got to get to the tight ends as well. I thought I would like to have seen him break more arm tackles. I felt like he didn't run through as many arm tackles as I wanted for a low center of gravity bowling ball type guy. Is that a concern or is that just...
No, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt just because of the foot injury that he had.
Okay.
I don't know how that affected him, but that's something you'd look at him. I didn't go back to 21 since it's summer scouting. But if you really want to take a deep dive, and then you have to go back and look and see if he was able to do that in 21.
All right. Who's your comp, Rick? 5'10", 217-ish.
My comp was J.K. Dobbins, who came out of Ohio State. That was the first guy that popped into my head when I was watching him.
It's funny. I had that thought, and the little devil on my shoulder said, what would Rick say to this comp? But then you did say on the wide receivers podcast that we're all about hitting home runs here. I thought J.K. Dobbins was a little more explosive. You disagree with that?
I thought very similar skill set.
Okay. Similar size for sure. I went with a guy drafted 3 spots before J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, just because similar size. I think he's more in line to J.K. Dobbins in terms of on-field productivity. I think J.K. Was better his final year. We'll see. Trevion could have a huge year, and it may not matter what we're saying here right now, but I think those are the comps. Similar size. I thought Cam Akers had to do more with less. And here, if you're looking, unfortunately, I looked up again. I was looking down at my notes, and Debo put the poll up. Better comp for the 2024 running back prospect, Trevion Henderson, Debo asks on Twitter, and 2/3 of the people agree with Rick. So Rick is now winning 2-1 in the poll race. I won the quarterback conversation, and you won the wide receiver and running back conversation. Do you have any more polls I should be wary about for this podcast, Debo?
I do. And this is actually our YouTube community page. So if you want to vote in any of these, you can dictate where the dollars flow to. Head over to NFL on CBS and the community tab.
On the community tab, it's not it wasn't clear that JK was Rick's guy though, right? So you're just voting blindly.
No, I even gave you a vote for Cam Akers just to boost you up a little bit.
Yikes. All right. This is a problem. So Rick gives me a hard time about my comps. Apparently, Rick, I'm not very good at the comps. So
no, you're excellent. I think you do a fantastic job with the comps, and I really appreciate all the hard work that you do to really dig in and try to come up with a comp. And I've been very impressed with your comps to date.
Yeah, I'm paying for that garage door. That's why you love these comps. All right, let's go to the second guy, Trevion Henderson. He worth watching, obviously, on what's going to be another really good Ohio State football team. Who's the quarterback at Ohio State, Rick? Do we know that?
We don't know that yet.
All right. Second up, and this is a young man. There's a young man for you who we thought that maybe he would come out in last year's draft. He got hurt in the Illinois game late in the season. I believe it was the Illinois game. And he was hobbled thereafter. He was a big part of their offense at Michigan. Blake Corum, the running back there. He plays much bigger than his size. And let me get his unofficial numbers here. 5'7", almost 5'7", a little over 5'7.5", 219. So he's a bowling ball in the truest sense of the word. Unofficial 4.45 speed. we'll see. I think he plays at that speed when we see him on tape. The undersized part is the biggest part for me, but the 219 more than makes up for it, Rick. So what's that trade-off like as an evaluator? Obviously, he's a small catch radius guy if you're concerned about that, as he helps in the pass game, but he's not going to get pushed around because he's 5'7", because he weighs 219.
No. No. What were you asking me again? I was focusing on my notes. I'm sorry. I should pay better attention to not only what you're saying, but your comp as well, because
Jesus.
It really helps me go in the direction I need to go by listening.
I know. I appreciate it
that you say, because I would hate to go against the grain on anything.
Yeah. Any concern when you're scouting a player who's 5'7" as a running back, but he does weigh almost 220 pounds?
No, you're looking at the production on the field, understanding that 5'7" is probably going to have some issues in pass blocking, but you can get away with short running backs. There's been some short running backs that have had very, very productive careers.
Yeah. Two of the comps that we have, mine's better than yours. We'll see. I hope Debo did that one, because that one's going to be a home run dunk for me. I just said home run dunk. That's how deep in the hole I am worried about this. All right, so let me tell you about Blake Corum, and you tell me how you feel about that. So again, he had that injury against Illinois, came back to return to school. He was listed as a 4.38 guy before last season, so he's gotten slower. I think that's the joke. You never know what the numbers actually are until you get them at the combine or the pro days. He does have kick return ability, which is obviously very important. We talked about special teams earlier. That's one area where these big time players can contribute. Again, Roshan Johnson was great on coverage. He can return kicks. He's the exception, it feels like. Built low to the ground. His quick lateral movements makes him a moving target behind the line of scrimmage. He had 24 receptions in 21. Only had 4 through 6 games last season. Actually, I did put in my notes, listed as a 4.38 guy, but didn't consistently hit the afterburners once he turned the corner in the run game. He can cut on a dime. Usually takes more than one defender to bring him down. Good hands as a receiver. Immediately becomes a returner in space in the quick game. So I thought he added a lot as a playmaker, not only as a running back, but his ability to create mismatches, especially on the perimeter, where he can use his speed and his quickness to win there. The only issue is that he's 5'7", and for Rick, that's not an issue. And again, sort of the same concerns with Trevion Henderson. Didn't do a lot in the pass game, but again, he did it 2 years ago, just last season. That wasn't a part of the offense, or for whatever reason. Doesn't mean he can't do it, just didn't do it recently.
Yeah, no, agree with everything that you said. I thought this guy was the quickest stop-start guy out of anyone in the draft, being able to drop his weight and elude in space. Contact balance, everything you said, I agree with. I did have some concern with the speed. And the only reason I say that, he did pop one and finish a run versus Penn State in the game I watched. But in that Illinois game, he got gunned down from behind on a screen. But very good running back. He is short. I think his hands are good enough, although he likes to catch in tight, but he's not going to be a target down the field, or he's going to be a guy that's going to be a check down guy or use him on screens just because he's so small and hard to see down the field. Nothing like a Jahmyr Gibbs, even though Jahmyr Gibbs was a little taller than him, but he'll function in the screen game and things like that. But he is a quick, explosive athlete. Just want to see what his speed is.
Debo, is this one of the ones you had the poll for?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. Who's your comp, Rick?
Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I looked at that too, and then I had the Rick on my shoulder conversation. I went with MJD, Maurice Jones-Drew, 2005 second round pick out of UCLA. I believe 2005. Yep. How do you feel about MJD? It's MJD. They're similar size and weight when you look at it. MJD felt like more of a bowling ball type player than Blake Corum.
I think you did an excellent job with your
get out of here.
So I am going to put a future Hall of Fame grade on him.
Would you, if you needed a running back and you had the 16th pick in the second round, would you take Ken Walker or MJD, both coming out of college in their primes?
Well, right now you take Maurice Jones because you know how type of career he had. So
yeah, all right.
I'm taking the low hanging fruit, the one I know for sure.
I think if Blake Corum Ken Walker had a great rookie season. I think if Blake Corum comes in and performs like either of those players, that's a huge get. And of course, because you didn't keep me on track, we didn't talk about this Trevion Henderson, but we can talk about circle back with Blake Corum because the game you were interested in watching for both players are the other teams. So
yeah, because Henderson didn't play last year in the Michigan game, and Corum only was able to get 2 carries for 6 yards. So I'd like to see those against very good defenses match up in such a high-profile game.
Yeah,
so,
last year Michigan won that game
pretty handily.
Yeah,
at Ohio State.
Yeah, that was a problem if you were a Ohio State fan. And also, let's talk about we have these guys ranked Trevion first, Blake second, but in terms of where you see them getting drafted, I think we're in agreement here. Day 2 guys?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
I had second round grades on both.
Yeah, I had late second, early third on both. But again, and I've said this before, I struggle with placing where these running backs get drafted because everything seems to change. Like 20 years ago, neither Henderson nor Corum were first round picks 20 years ago, even, right?
No, not in my opinion.
Okay. No, I agree with you. All right. Well, we're off to a rollicking start. D-Bell, we're in agreement on a lot. Rick loves my comps. This is a great day to be alive. He's getting garage doors.
Going on vacation.
Going on vacation in the car 12 hours with the dog and the kids. So let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll rip through these other 3 running backs and hit up the tight ends.
When you're the FedEx Cup champion, your name's on this trophy forever. This is our season-long race. This is the sought-after trophy when we tee it up, the first event of the season that you think about.
Three tournaments with the world's best golfers battling for the tour's toughest trophy to win, the FedEx Cup. The playoffs begin August 12th on CBS.
FedEx Cup coming to CBS, Rick. What's the last round you shot on the golf course?
86 on Saturday.
Oh, you're getting better. You're getting better. I've won that bet. I got those bets going for me.
Yeah, you're going to lose all those bets. Yeah, I'm trying to get the Most Improved Player of the Year award at the end of the banquet of my men's league.
Is there an award for that?
I asked them for one. They said no.
Yeah, they think you're a ringer. You go out there, you shoot 100, then you come back and shoot 84. All right, let's hit these final 3 running backs, and then we'll hit the tight ends here. So give me your number 3 running back on your list, because I think it's different than mine.
Yeah, well, it was Corum. I had number 2. My next guy was Sanders from Arkansas.
I had Raheem Sanders 4th. So let's talk about Raheem Sanders, Arkansas running back. He is a grown man. Let me get his numbers here. Raheem is unofficially 6'2", 221, listed as a 4.52 guy. So explain to me why you had him number 2.
One, because of the size. He runs a lot out of pistol formation. This guy is very patient, very good run vision. He can pick and slide his way through a hole. Very good body lean. He's tough to knock off his feet. He's good speed, but he's not electric. Did have a long TD runs in the Ole Miss game. If you want to watch that game, Ryan, that would be a good game for you to watch.
The Ole Miss game?
The Ole Miss game.
Yeah, that's what I watched. Go ahead.
Catches the ball well, the backfield. I liked him because of his size and more than willing in pass protection. This is a big physical workhorse back, but he does need to get enough carries to get himself laddered up in a game. He's not going to be like come in 2 plays and run 2 80-yard runs. He's got to get his carries. He's the type of back, I don't want to call him old school, but the more that you give him the ball, the more he ends up wearing out the defense because of his size and his physicality.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. I did right, and I liked him. Don't get me wrong. I think part of the reason I had him 4th, I was so angry at the Ole Miss defense, or their lack of defense. It's like they were playing 2-hand tag and no one had any arms on the defense because they were letting him run. By the end of that game, they didn't even want to try to tackle him. I wrote the
yeah, let's not give the kid credit. Let's just blame it on Ole Miss defense.
No, he's not fun to tackle, but at some point, you would like to see a better effort from the old. I mean, listen, if you were in the
being very patient with you right now.
Well, let me put it this way. If you were in the general manager suite and you saw a defense like that, you'd be yelling some things about the defense needs to get better. That said, I thought Raheem Sanders, I think he's a really good football player. And I thought my comp reflected that. I did say, I didn't think like he doesn't have the juice to turn the corner. Like he's not going to turn the corner like Blake Corum, for example, but that's not his game. He's a completely different body type and he's going to bring a completely different element to the backfield. We both had Let me see. So you had him as a second round guy. I had him as early third guy. I'm guessing you had him as a second round guy, right?
Yeah, I have him set right there in the second, third round, right now. Wheelhouse.
Okay, so we had him in the same ballpark. I just had the guys ranked a little differently. And look, Ole Miss defense being crappy or not aside, Raheem Sanders is a really good football player. Who was your comp for Raheem?
Roshan Johnson.
I like that too. This is angering me that you're not doing a worse job of this. But to defend myself against the excuses of the Ole Miss defense, I thought my comp was good. I thought Debo's going to throw up a poll there. I was getting nervous.
You need to keep those polls up there for a while to see as we get through the season to see how our initial comps are.
All right. Yeah, that's true. Your actual instinctive reaction to my comp. Joe Mixon high end, TJ Yeldon low end.
Yeah, I really like those comps, Ryan.
Oh,
I think you did a phenomenal job coming up. I think physicality like Joe Mixon, I don't know.
He's not as athletic as Joe Mixon. You agree with that?
Yeah. No, I whatever you say, I agree with.
Oh, okay, good.
I don't think he catches the ball well as TJ Yeldon came out when he came out.
It was well, Roshan Johnson catches the ball pretty well though.
Yeah, no, he's very good. I thought
Rick has simmered down since last week when he was Mr. Go Big or Go Home.
With his comps.
Yeah, it's like
this next comp, I don't know, Debo. This next comp, I think he got the Keurig misaligned on that coffee sipper because this one's getting crazy. All right, let's talk about this guy. And by the way, this guy, where did he rank Braylon Allen of Wisconsin? Where was he on your personal list?
4th.
Oh, so he was 4th. I had him 3rd, so I liked him a little bit better than Raheem Sanders. Your comp suggests that he should be higher than 4th, but we'll get to that in a second. He's another big body running back, and he's 20 pounds heavier than Raheem Sanders. 6 feet, almost 6'1", unofficial, 240 pounds, 4.60 unofficial. And that's sort of how he plays, but you're not going to see many guys that weigh 240 running in the 4.3s. Let's see what I have here. Wasn't particularly twitched up or shifty, but he's more bull than ballerina. He's not going to outrun NFL defenders to the edge. He's a one cut and go guy. He can get his pad level low. And you see him do that consistently. He likes to truck would-be tacklers, explode to the hole with pad level. Tackles bounce off of him if they don't square him up. And then he can rip off long runs, even though, again, he's a 4.6 guy. But, Rick, would you agree that 4.6 in the open field with a defensive back 4 yards behind you is plenty fast enough to get the end zone?
Yes, I do, Ryan. I do agree with
but
you.
But it's rare that you see, except for like the DK Metcalf run down. Who's that? Buda Baker, he ran down. Like, that's the exception. But typically, if you hit a full head of steam at the second level, it's hard for linebackers or safeties to redirect and chase you down until 40 or 50 yards later.
Unless you're slow.
Well, 4.6, I think that gets you there. Slow. That's too slow?
That's slow for me.
All right. Well, was Braylon Allen too slow for you?
No, he was fine. I thought that when we go into the big back category, that Sanders was more explosive than Brandon Allen was.
All right. Well, then explain your comp.
My comp was a poor man. Please, poor man. Derrick Henry style, because that's the only back that size that I can come up with. I couldn't think of another back that big. And Derrick Henry, he's not as explosive as Derrick Henry, but he goes forward on contact because of his size.
Yep.
Probably not as fast as Derrick Henry, but his run style reminded me of Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I mean, Derrick's feels like a little more high knee guy, but I get what you're saying. I went with A.J. Dillon out of BC as the upper end, Quadri Allison out of Pitt as the sort of low end, depending somewhere in between there. They're similar size weight guys. I think A.J. Dillon maybe is on similar athletic terms than Braylon Allen because Derrick Henry's a special athlete.
I say that I like your comp better than my comp.
Wow, look at that. I think he's actually being sincere too this time, Debo.
Not really. Yeah, I am. I am being very sincere.
He caught himself.
You got a better comp than I did on that one.
Even, I tell you what, I wanted to give this next guy, we're going to talk about Will Shipley out of Clemson, who is a completely different body type. 5'10", 205, unofficial, 4.46 unofficial. I so desperately just wanted to say Christian McCaffrey. What do you think? Because I knew that would.
That's not.
Your wig would come off your head, and you would not be able to glue it back on there. I didn't do that.
Thank you.
He's not nearly. I mean, look, Christian McCaffrey's in a league of his own. But when we're talking about those sorts of players, the Jahmyr Gibbs types, Shipley doesn't have that athleticism. He's versatile. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He has a matchup problem because of his ability to catch the ball. He lines up in the backfield. I thought I'd like to see him more maybe move around, but the games I watched, he didn't do that. He's tough. He's one of the toughest players on the field. He's not going to give you anything as a blocker, but that's not a surprise because of the size and the position. He'll run between the tackles, but that's not his game. And I would like to see him run through a little more tackles as a running back, something we see Christian McCaffrey do. But again, I think he's an integral part of that offense. He was a big part of that offense last year with, DJ Uyunglele struggling. He's just not the athlete the Jahmyr Gibbs or the Christian McCaffreys, but he's a good player.
Solid player, very good football player, and agree with everything you said. I don't think he's a number one back. I think he's a number two running back that's a complement back. But all the things you said, he can catch the ball. He's not a very good blocker. He can run. He has very good vision. Because of his skill set, I think he was one of the probably prominent playmakers on Clemson last year that kept them in a lot of games just because of the inconsistent quarterback play.
Right, exactly. And he's a kick returner too, so he offers that versatility. Your comp is the guy you drafted.
Yeah, a little bit Jerick McKinnon to me, where he's a great number two complement back, where he can catch the ball. Jerick's probably a little faster, but similar skill set on what they can bring to the offense as far as catching the ball and being a number two running back.
Yeah, no, I like yours better again. It's a humbling day for me, Rick. I went with Gio Bernard out of UNC. Similar size. I started with the size because you were getting on me because I had all these mismatched size comps. So I went with the size, but Jerick's he does more of the same thing. Gio is a similar type player as well, but I think Jerick is probably more on point. Although I'm sure if I were to ask you, you would love the Gio Bernard comp.
It is. I was going back and forth very hard, but for about 2 seconds.
Let me ask you quickly, how do you do your comps? Off the top of your head, or do you consult things online?
No, I do it right off the top of my head. Just everybody I've seen or drafted.
Because I go to Pro Football Reference and I match up the heights and weights, and then I start from there, and then I'll go to mockdraftable.com and see if there are any things that I missed, because then that compares sort of the workout warrior numbers. And clearly my method isn't as good as yours. So
no, I just go off basically as I'm watching guys. And I did that when I was scouting. As you sit there, watch it, then you go through the Rolodex on everybody you've seen. And it's like, who does this guy remind you of? And then some way, shape, or form, a name pops into my head every time I do that. I didn't know that they had those machines. You showed me them.
Machines.
Yeah, all those machines. And
well, that's because you were having to do offensive lineman 27, so you needed to go deep for your comps at that point. So was it a requirement on the scouting reports that your scouts wrote to put a comp on there?
I always wanted them, everyone who they've seen in the past, who did it remind them of? Because as soon as they gave me a comp, then that would kind of give me a picture. Now,
I'm laughing because how long would I laugh in the organization if you got my comps and then watch the player?
I just have to learn how to look at a different picture than I would normally be used to looking at.
Were there scouts that
great thing, because that makes me think even more.
Were there scouts that had such I'll say bad comps that you ignored them, or you had to have conversations with them?
No, never.
Oh.
I never criticize anyone's opinion of that.
What? Stop it.
And it may be because the guy's only been scouting for 2 years. So,
Devo, do you believe that Rick never called anyone out?
It's tough to believe, to be honest with you.
All right, Rick, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about one tight end in particular, and we'll hit the other ones as well right after this.
In 3, 2, 1.
How you doing?
Run, Forrest!
Run, Ernie.
So fetch.
Yay!
Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Hey, remember, thumbs up on the old YouTubes if you don't mind. Subscribe to the podcast, 5-star review. And if you're listening, we just saw a commercial for Paramount Plus. Rick, how's Paramount Plus going?
It's going very well. I really have enjoyed my victory lap, searching through some of the movies and some of the shows on there. And if I don't get to see the show when it's on CBS, I could always go back to Paramount Plus and watch it again.
This guy knows how to read a copy. Yeah, I just showed my 11-year-old Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Did you see the computer in that?
Yeah, I mean, he was changing grades from his house on the big pewter, as you call it. That's 1986. He liked it, but he's like, this movie's kind of weird. And I don't know, a movie that's almost 37 years old. Is that what it is? Yeah. So that was there. The new Top Gun. You've seen new Top Gun yet, Rick?
No, I have not seen a new Top Gun.
Oh, you will love the new Top Gun. You saw the original Top Gun.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did.
You'll love the new one. All right. Tight ends. Brock Bowers. That's where it starts. Last year, there were 2 tight ends on that team. Darnell Washington, we thought had a chance to get drafted in the first round. Had an injury issue that saw him last to the 3rd round, went to Pittsburgh. He's been on the All Things Covered podcast. If you want to check that out with Pat P and B-Mac. But Brock Bowers, from the moment he stepped on that campus, was the best tight end on that team and probably one of the best players. And that organization puts out first-round picks like it's their job. So tell me about Brock Bowers, because it's hard to find anything wrong with his game. He's 6'4", 230.
Yeah, what's wrong is he needs to probably add a few pounds to his body, his frame, because you like him around 240, 245 at least if you can. But mismatch in the passing game, they move him all over the field. Excellent.
Hey, sorry, Rick, to interrupt you. Let me ask you, if he's not going to be in line primarily, do you care that he's 240 or 230?
I still think depending on how you're going to use him, he's not a receiver. So you want him to get a little bit heavier. And physically, he's going to mature probably into 2. So when we looked at body types at the combine, if we put an F on him, that meant frame. That means he was maxed out.
Oh, gotcha.
B on him, that meant bulk, which means he can probably add and gain really good weight. So he would have probably a B alert on him due to being 230 pounds. We had minimums at every position.
Yep.
Height, weight, arm length, speeds, shuttle, everything from A to Z. We had minimums for each position. And how we came up with those is our analytics department said, these are the players that played at starter level or Pro Bowl level. They took all their measurements and came up with a model of what we use. And if they were lower than one of those minimum standards that we have, then we would put an alert on them. But an F alert would be a little bit more concerning to me than a B alert, because I know he can still physically develop, and our strength department can get him in there and get him add a little more bulk to his frame.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, I don't know of any tight ends who weigh 230 who had, Hall of Fame, Pro Bowl, whatever type careers. The 230 is what, you take big receivers and make, like Jawan Jennings, for example. So, all right, take your point. So what are, if any, are there any concerns about Bowers' game?
Just the lack of size as far as a blocker, because they'll put him on the wing or H-back. He gives effort, but he's going to struggle if he has to man up versus a defensive end or an outside linebacker. So if you're going to pick holes, that would be the one area that you would want him to get a little bigger and a little stronger at as a run blocker. But he is a mismatch in the pass game.
Absolutely. I thought that he was a legit problem in the middle of the field when they lined him up there. They didn't do it a lot. Once he got to the second level, he was legit outrunning safeties to the end zone.
He has very unique run after catch skills for a tight end.
The short area quickness is impressive. His ability to move laterally, I thought was really good. A lot of times you see, and this isn't the case with Brock physically, he's not a big lumbering tight end, but big lumbering tight ends aren't known for their lateral movements. They're known for blocking and being a short and intermediate threat. He's a threat to all three levels. And
watch the 78-yard touchdown catch against South Carolina. They'll tell you all you need to know about his run after catch skills.
I feel like you have some sort of insight into what I'm doing here, because that's the exact play I was talking about, where he just those defensive backs didn't have a chance to catch him. All right, who's your comp, Rick?
I'm going to go with a Kittle-Kelsey type comparison.
He's back to hitting grand slams, Debo.
That's where I believe that his skill set as a receiver is going to be at the NFL level.
Yeah, you're going to hate this comp because I was trying to find the height weight, and there isn't really a height weight. So I went with TJ Hawkinson in terms of technical skills. Oh, Jesus. This is the one you did, Debo? You got some nerve. This is the one that Debo did the poll on. With Noah Fant athleticism, didn't even Debo. You turned against me, Rick.
I don't know what the people are, why they don't like your comps.
I can't believe, I'll be honest, I can't believe 30% voted for me. Like, that sounds awfully high.
Yeah.
I mean, Rick has the advantage here when you pick the two most recognizable best tight ends in the game. Like, Ryan could have put Kellen Winslow Sr. and Ozzie Newsome and had a better chance here.
Oh, gosh.
Just so people know, right? We never share comps, so we could have had the same comps.
We did for the quarterbacks, and then things took a drastic turn in the wrong direction for me. Yeah, Travis Kelce. Look, Noah Fant's athleticism. I was trying to create one super tight end, which is what Brock Bowers is. But Travis Kelce, he was actually light coming out too. You made that point. George Kittle, I don't remember what he weighed. He's probably closer to 250. So I'm going to dock you points for being 20 pounds over on the disparity in weights between the two players. Although I think Hawkinson was a little lighter than Noah. Back in that draft, because that's a draft where Hawkinson went 8th overall, the 2019 draft. Did you guys like Hawkinson better than Fant?
Yes.
Is that because of the technical over the athletic?
Yeah, Fant was athletic and he can catch the ball, but he had a few drops too that he needed to clean up coming out.
All right, fair enough.
So this guy has no drops. I don't think I charted the drop in everything.
No, he's a top. Let's talk about that. Top 15 or top 10?
I put him in top 10.
Okay, I think I said top 15 just to cover my bases because, you never know. But so the last. All right, let's go through the list. I'm looking. I got a list of guys, tight ends who've been drafted 10th or higher in the last few years. Actually, going back to 1960. See how many of these names you recognize, Rick. There are not a lot of tight ends. In fact, 20 total have been drafted in the top 10 since 1960. Kyle Pitts, of course, number 4. Is Bowers better than Pitts?
Yes.
What? All right, Debo. You got to, when you start cutting these videos, you promised to cut me. Make sure you cut that one. Make this one a short. Why is Bowers better than Pitts?
He's more well-rounded, and he's a better run-after-catch guy than Pitts.
Holy Moses.
Pitts was fast. Pitts was like a big receiver.
Yeah.
But he was lean. But I thought Bowers just had, in contested situations, Bowers was going to win. In run-after-catch, Bowers was more elusive and better run balance and run contact. Pitts probably was faster straight line.
Yeah.
But Bowers is unique as better athletically from having the ball in his hand than Pitts was.
Yeah, TJ Hawkinson was a 4.7 guy. There's no way on planet Earth that Bowers is running a 4.7. I feel like he's a 4.5, 5-ish at worst guy.
Yes.
All right, TJ Hawkinson went 8th overall in 2019. TJ or Bowers?
Bowers.
I mean, if Pitts is number 2, I don't know there's going to be a name of this list. Oh, maybe. Here we go. Eric Ebron, it was a fantastic athlete coming out of UNC. He was 10th overall in 2014. He had some drops coming out. He had some drops that plagued him. Here's one that I'm curious about. Vernon Davis, 2006, went 6th overall.
There's a good one. That'd be close. Vernon Davis was probably more explosive speed-wise, I would say.
And he was built. He was thick.
And he was thick. He was very well. I would probably go with Davis.
Kellen Winslow coming out of the U, never really worked out at Cleveland for various reasons. He went 6th over in 2004. Let's see. Oh, you'll know these names. Ricky Dudley.
From was he Ohio State?
He was 9th overall in 1996. He may have been more.
I won my Paramount Plus. Was the only trivia I know is players in schools.
That's right. That's how you won it. Kyle Brady was more of a blocking tight end, if I recall correctly. He went 9th overall as a blocking tight end. That's hardcore. Where did he go to college, Rick?
Old school. That was back in the day where you put an emphasis on run blocking, where in today's NFL, you're putting more of an emphasis on mismatch and receiving skills.
Where did Kyle Brady go to college?
Penn State.
You got it. All right. I'm going to see if I can stump you here. Oh, the next. So that was 1995. Tight end was top 10. The next tight end to go in the top 10 was 1980. And then we'll move on after this. If you know this guy, then you've been in the league for at least 30 years. Junior Miller.
I was in high school then. Sorry.
Tight end, drafted 7th overall, 1980, out of Nebraska. There you go. All right. So what I'm hearing is that Brock Bowers and Vernon Davis are potentially two of the most athletic tight ends to come out in the last 20 years, ahead of Kyle Pitts.
Yes, from a standpoint of run after catch, I'm not talking about just pure stretch the field speed.
No, just athleticism, playmaking ability, whole package. Because Kyle Pitts is a fantastic athlete, but not as polished as Bowers.
And Bowers, even though he's 230, he runs stronger.
You're not going to get any argument from me, sadly. All right, let's rip through these other tight ends in the next 10 to 12 minutes so I can get on the road. Number 2, who's the number 2 tight end on your list?
Stover from Ohio State.
Stover was 4 for me. So Kate Stover returned last year, former defensive player, so he's still relatively new to the position. Tell me about Kate Stover.
I thought the one game that he really struggled in was Michigan. But I thought he played really well in the Penn State game. He got hurt in Georgia when they played Georgia. This guy is probably, besides one other lad we're going to talk about here, the best run blocker, the most well-rounded tight end, although he needs to finish better. He needs some route refinement. I don't know if he's going to be a total mismatch in the passing game, but I gave him credit for his upside because he is new at the position. He can catch the ball. He had the drops in the Michigan game. Talented enough to develop into a backup. And I think he could be a number 2 on the line wide tight end. And he's going to be able to contribute on special teams.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think part of the concern for me, not necessarily concern, but the reason I had him 4 instead of 2 is that he is still a work in progress. And there weren't a lot of targets for him to go around, understandably so, when you're on that offense. So you're sort of projecting, which is obviously something that you probably do a little better than me. So I fell in love with the athleticism of the player we'll talk about in a second. You instead went with the upside of Kate Stover. Your comp for Cade was whom?
Tyler Conklin.
So another player you drafted.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, I went with Foster Moreau because he just felt like if you built a tight end in a lab and said, all right, go, or out of central casting, I should say, that would be Foster Moreau. He's just sort of a faceless 6'5", 250-pound tight end looking guy. That's who Kate Stover is for me now. So
yeah, but Kate Stover is not 6'5". He's more right in line with Tyler Conklin, about 6'3", 250.
He's 6'3" and almost 6'4", 251, 4.65 unofficial. All right, you got that one. All right, let's move on before the happy juice wears off and you start getting on me about these comps.
No, very good. I mean, I can see the comp very clearly in my head.
Thank you. Who is your number 3 tight end?
Jaheen Bell.
Oh, man. All right. Well, my number 2 tight end was Jatavion Sanders out of Texas. Look, 6'4", 242, unofficial, 4.67. The athleticism is what got my attention. He played. What's that?
Who are we talking about? Now you're getting me confused.
Jatavion Sanders is what I'm talking about. Okay. Texas.
All right.
He was my number 2 tight end on my list.
4.
He was your number 4. So the reason I liked Jatavion was because he played half and half in line in the slot, so it just depends on the game, I guess. Asked to contribute a lot in the run game as a blocker. He was willing. I thought he did a pretty good job as a blocker, surprisingly good blocker in terms of what we've seen from the running backs and the tight ends so far. Long strider in the pass game when he gets into his routes, middle of field threat from the tight end position. Also, when he's split out a little bit, needs to do a better job of catching the ball away from his body. He's a willing blocker, needs to get stronger. Shows ability to lock up defensive ends, but needs to get better sustaining blocks. So I like the want to there. I thought he was pretty good at finding the holes in the zone and the short and intermediate routes. Like to see a little bit more precision route running. But I like the athleticism a lot.
Let me count to 10.
Oh, you didn't agree with any of that?
I did a little bit. I didn't think he was a great athlete. I thought he was good enough speed, just above the line. But to put him in
interesting,
a great athletic category, I don't know if I would do that. He does need to get stronger as a blocker, more of an absorber than he is a deliverer on contact. Very non-explosive, very
Oh, jeez.
very limited route tree. He's not a legit vertical deep threat. The best asset I thought were his hands, because
Oh, okay.
I thought that he did extend. I thought he won in contested situations, which he's going to be in a lot. He was just an average athlete after the catch, not overly elusive, and I was disappointed. He usually went down on first contact in space, mid-round talent. I kind of compared him to McBride out of Colorado State.
Good Lord. You must have hated McBride then, huh?
I gave McBride a Friday grade.
Oh, okay.
McBride was probably a little bit better blocker, but this kid and McBride both, I thought, had very good hands in contested situations.
This is one of the first times, by the way, that we've sort of disagreed on the evaluation, which is interesting. What game did you watch?
I don't have my games here in front of me. I know it was Alabama. I know, I believe Texas A&M.
Okay.
And I can't remember my third game.
All right. Yeah, that's interesting because we're talking about two different players, it feels like, and we've been pretty much on the same page with these other evaluations. So, hey, that's why we have these conversations, and we'll go back and I'll certainly watch more. So where did you have Jatavion draft range-wise?
Third round.
I had Jatavion as a second rounder, and Cade Stover, which I keep forgetting to tell us the draft rounds. What'd you have for Cade?
Second, third round.
I had second, third on him as well. Okay. So little discrepancy there. Let's go down the list. Next up, number 4, Jaheim Bell, Florida State. And he was your number 2 on your personal list, correct?
3.
Okay. He was 3 on my personal list as well. All right. Jaheim Bell. Let's do the little numbers here. Almost 6'2", 229 unofficial. So he's a little light by tight end standards. 4.55 unofficial. Slot, played some running back, played some offset, H-back stuff. He was all over the place. And I love, he's a lot of fun to watch. Swiss Army knife is probably the easiest way to describe him, Rick, because he lines up everywhere. Transferred from South Carolina. And I'll ask you this about Jaheim Bell, and you can give me your scouting report because I think we agree on it based on our comps. Any concern, and you don't deal with this so much at the professional level, but I know that his family members were on social media not happy that he wasn't playing because it was weird that he didn't play. I don't know the reasons. I don't know if it was he didn't get along with the coaches. I don't know. It was just scheme, whatever, but he didn't play a lot. And that probably precipitated the reason he transferred. He had very little production, wasn't targeted very often. And in fact, I went back and watched the bowl game from 2021, after the 2021 season, where he had a huge game against North Carolina to get an idea of what he could do. Any concern about the relatives' involvement in their?
You just have to dig down into why, because this kid's athletic ability, this kid's ability to make plays with the ball in his hand, you wonder where was the disconnect at South Carolina. So that's something that you'd have to dig into as you went through the pre-draft process. But I would be, as a parent, if your son is that talented and not getting the ball, unless there's something we don't know about, I could see why he potentially.
Yeah. So is versatility a good thing or a bad thing when you're looking at the next level? Because he can do everything, and he does it at a pretty high level on the college football field.
I think it's a very good thing because he can do multiple things. And when you can do multiple things, I put into my head, that's probably going to translate into a good special teams player as well.
No, that's a good point. And when he runs the ball in the backfield as a running back, he looks like a running back. He does not look like a tight end that was asked to carry the ball awkwardly in the backfield.
No, and if you got stuck or in a pinch as a one back, he's not going to do anything electric, but he can probably get you through a game.
Right. So lo and behold, you must have been doing something wrong. We had the same comp for this guy.
You go ahead. I can't say his name.
Chigakwankwo out of Maryland.
Yeah.
Who was tested incredibly well, but he's also a fun player to watch when he's in Maryland. Drafted by the Titans, right?
Yep.
Yeah, drafted by the Titans. So, and you also had a part B to your comp, as did I. You said Braden Willis, which actually I like a lot. Braden Willis was one of my favorite players last year out of Oklahoma. I said Jalen Samuels because of the versatility. They're different size players. But coming out of NC State, Jalen Samuels was for some reason listed at tight end, but he played mostly running back in the NFL. But that versatility is what made him draftable. I think it was a 4th or 5th round pick. And one of his best games in the NFL, he ran for over 100 yards against the Patriots in a win 4 or 5 years ago.
Right. I don't know if he's as good a runner as Samuels is.
Yeah.
But that's why I went with Willis, because I thought Willis they did a lot of things with Willis other than just as a tight end, and seen the same thing in this kid, but he's a very good football player.
Look at that. We're on the same page.
Yeah. One catch that really stuck out to me was against Georgia. He ran a 9 route or a go route.
Mm-hmm.
For him to go up over top of the defender to pull that down was very athletic. It was a 47-yard reception. And
was that 2022?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This kid was very athletic with speed after the catch.
Yeah, I'll say this: the 2021 bowl game, I think it was Duke's Mayo Bowl against UNC. He put on an absolute show, and he made contested catches down the field. He took a intermediate route to the house. He had 2 big runs, so it was hard to find those plays. So you mentioned one against Georgia, and then you have to go back to the UNC game the year before to see more. All right, let's talk about this last guy quickly, because we don't want to give too much credit to Pete Prisco, who has made a living at identifying players, Rick. So he turns you on to Arizona State, his alma mater. Tight end Jalen Conyers, 6'4", 265, 4.70 unofficial. He's on some what's the word I should say? I know he's on the Shrine Bowl.
Watch list.
What's that?
Watch lists.
Thank you. He's on the Shrine Bowl watch list. That's what I was trying to get to. So yeah, and Jaheim Bell, great. Sorry.
I put him as a 3rd rounder.
Me too. All right. Jalen Conyers. Here we go. So what do you like about Jalen Conyers other than Pete Prisco recommended him to you?
I have to give Pete credit, because I was looking at other tight ends, and then Pete called me and said, you better look at this kid from Arizona State. and Pete was right so far. Now we'll see how it goes this year, but didn't have a lot of targets, or didn't show up much in the first half of the season. Then you look at what he did at the end of the season, UCLA, the bowl game, Arizona game. All of a sudden you say, who the heck is this guy? And this guy is excellent size. I was surprised at how good an athlete he is for his size. He's not a burner, but he's fast enough, very good play strength. With his size, I thought he gave great effort as a run blocker, but it's limited exposure. He may be the best run blocker besides Stover because of his size out of this whole group. So if a team's looking for a combination guy that can actually play on the line of scrimmage as a true Y tight end that can be very efficient and effective as a run blocker, I think a lot of people are going to look at him that way. But he extended the catch. He had very good concentration in contested situation. He had surprising rack for me after the catch, run after catch ability, where he had some contact balance. And I thought he was quick to get the ball upfield after the catch. Now, he's not going to totally outrun anyone, but I was shocked when I saw first game early. I was like, why is Pete letting me watch this guy? I called Pete, and Pete said, go back and watch these games. And I went back and watched them, and I was pleasantly surprised. He's not polished yet, but I think this guy has a chance to really come on this year. And my pro comp to him was Tucker Kraft out of South Dakota State last year, who was drafted by the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, we'll have to see how Tucker works out. That's a huge comp, because that's a lot of athleticism there. I said basically the same thing you did. He has the ability to catch the ball away from his body, has soft hands with yards after catch potential. Moves well laterally, didn't show much stiffness in his movements, which is also sometimes surprising when you talk about players of that size playing that position. Long strider, not a burner. Listed as 4.7 guy. He may play a little faster than that, and actually showed some open field elusiveness, talking about the athleticism you're talking about. The body type and just the expectations it was a hard comp for me, as you might imagine. I didn't go quite as athletic as Tucker Kraft. I went with Albert Abuikuinum, Jay Cutler's old tight end from Missouri. I don't think Rick liked that one, Debo.
I do. I think it's a very good comparison. But I like my Tucker Kraft comparison much better because I'm going to give him credit for his athleticism that you're not giving him credit.
No, apparently not. My notes say he's a better athlete than the comp. I'll give you that. But I agree with you in terms of the actual evaluation. I'll work on the comps. I'll be thinking.
Watch this kid. If he has the year how he played at the end of last year, this is one of those guys that will be on everybody's radar that may not be well known now, but maybe the guy that's going to shoot up the draft charts and see if he does not pass up some of those other guys that we just talked about.
Late day 2, you think, for him?
Yes, and I'm not so sure as it goes. You're going to be. I don't want to ruin your vacation, but if he does not if he passes up the Texas Sanders kid,
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, no, that's why we talk about these things. I had him early day 3 right now. I think I docked him a half round for being Pete's guy, but he's a good player. I let my notes say he's a better player than my comp does. So, yeah, Jalen Connors, Pete Prisco, shout out to you. All right, Rick, that's it. That's a wrap. Those are the running backs. Those are the wide receivers.
No, we did running backs and tight ends today.
Tight ends. I'm trying to get out of here so quickly. I got a lot on my plate, Rick. I will spend the next 12 hours thinking about my
focus when we do this hour show. Just focus on the show.
You're right.
And focus on the show.
I know. I appreciate you holding it together for an hour and 1 minute, and then I'll take that. I'm gonna think about my comps on my drive down south. That's it for episode 66. Remember, if you don't mind, give us a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube and subscribe to the old podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. We'll be back next week, Rick, to talk offensive linemen, and then we'll turn to the defensive side of the ball. I don't know who my comp's going to be for Joe Alt and Olufashanu, but they will probably be awesome. So, Debo, get the poll ready because I think I'm losing 3-1 now.
I think that it should be. The fans should text you or whatever
tweeter at me
and see tweeter at you comps. So maybe it could be you and the fans against me and the comps. See how
that's a great idea. Yeah, so send comps for Joe Alt and Olufashanu to at Ryan Wilson CBS or at NFL Draft CBS for who I think they should be, and maybe I'll use those because it can't be any worse than the ones I'm putting out there. And that way, when Rick gets angry, he can get angry at you.
I'm not getting angry at you. I'm trying to help you your comps and by the fans chiming in. And it could be Ryan Wilson plus instead of Paramount plus.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Against the Rick Spielman comps. We'll see.
I know we have to get out of here, but I got to send you. Someone left a grade. Oh, Debo gave you a grade of 3.2 on your last dad joke at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, I got one.
All right, tell it real quick, and I'll find this comment of someone. What they thought of your last.
Okay, why, Ryan?
Oh,
as you drive the next 12 hours after this podcast, do you never get into a fight with a dinosaur?
Why, Rick, do you never get into a fight with a dinosaur?
Because you'll get your ass kicked.
Oh, that one I don't hate. What's the grade on that one, Devo?
Yeah, you kind of curse, and that brings up the grade. At least I'm going to give that a 6.
That's pretty good. That's the best one yet. So Joey Nichols in the comments after your last dad joke round at the end of the wide receivers podcast. Debo gave you a 3.2. Joey said 3.2 is way too generous. I give Rick a 1.2 out of 10 on his dad joke, quarterback joke. That thing doesn't even have a pulse. We're talking dead on arrival. The best thing you can say about it is that it made use of words. So Joey didn't like it.
Comps are much better than my dad jokes, is what he's saying.
I don't know. This comp right here, this dad joke was pretty good. I think Debo's right. All right. Thank you for everyone for watching and listening and the comments. We appreciate it. We'll be back next Thursday to talk offensive linemen. Until then, see you guys later.
Safe travel.